Friends and family, welcome to another video. This is going to be an interesting one. As you guys may or may not know, I lost my beloved sister-in-law not too long ago. She's the one that I dedicated my hair shaving video to, the second hair shaving video to. And anyway, so I don't know what I'm going to call this video yet because it's traumatic to me. It's I don't even know what to call it. Like a day from hell. And I am telling you this story for two reasons. First of all, I'm wondering if anybody has gone through this stuff with airlines before and how they handled it. I'm sure somebody has, and how they handled it. The second reason is, people want to know, what happened, and I'm tired of telling the same story over and over again because it's traumatic to me. It's very emotional. So bear with me. I'm going to tell you the entire story. This is a story from trying to get to my sister-in-law's funeral. You know how much I loved her. You may or may not know how much I loved her. I went to spend some time with her in Reunion Island, and I have a couple of videos I think that I showed with their pizza and stuff like that. It was a wonderful time, and she was doing very well, fighting cancer. She was doing amazingly well, phenomenally well, and I just could not ever have imagined that she would be gone right now, because I was sure she was going to beat it. But so we got the news that she had passed, and so my husband and I were going to her funeral. Her funeral was 4 days after we heard the news that she had passed. So I booked a ticket for us. We were going to go to from Washington Dulles Airport to JFK, and then from JFK Airport to Lisbon in Portugal, and then from Lisbon, Portugal to France. She had moved to France, and so that's where her funeral was going to be. So that was the plan. So I booked it. I used cheapoair.com. They are a wonderful group of people. I have no affiliation with them, but they did help ease the stress a little bit because of their customer friendliness. Anyway, so we booked everything and headed on down to the airport, Washington Dulles. We got there, we checked in and everything, right? And then we checked in. The flight was supposed to be at 4:15. At about 3:45, the announcement came over the PA that the flight was delayed. I said, okay. Our connecting flight at JFK Airport in New York was at 11:25 p.m. So that's fine. At this point it's 3:45. Like, we have plenty of time. Delayed, will be all right. So we're sitting there, grabbed something to eat. At about 4:15, another announcement came and said, your flight has been canceled. Basically, flight blah 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 to JFK has been canceled. This was Delta Airlines. So I proceeded to the counter and I said, I need to catch a flight in JFK tonight. So is there another flight you can put me on? And they said, actually, all flights from Washington Dulles Airport to JFK have been canceled. I have never heard that in my life before. And I said to her, why? And she goes, oh, well, it's just, air traffic control. That's what they said. And I said, but what's the reason? The weather was perfect. There was no inclement weather anywhere else. I think at that time there may have been still the fires burning in California, but that's all the way on the other side of the West Coast. And she goes, well, that's, so we just booked you on another flight. I said, okay, thank you very much. What time is it? And she goes, this flight is at 6 o'clock and it is Reagan National Airport. That's where that flight is. I said, how am I supposed to get there? And she goes, oh, we're going to give you a coupon or a ticket or whatever, something. And then there's a cab, yellow cab downstairs or wherever. And then you can just go and take the cab free of charge and it'll take you to Reagan National Airport. I said, okay. So everybody on that flight got the same deal. They were all rebooked to other flights. So we went, took the cab. It took us to Reagan Airport, and we got there at about 5 o'clock. It could be 4:45, 5 o'clock. I can't remember too well. But we got there, you know, in good time. She had already given me the confirmation and check-in, you know, not a boarding pass, but a check-in information. So when I got there, I went to one of these machines and I proceeded to, you know, scan it to check in. And it goes right there on the screen. It told me your flight is at 8 a.m. and then, you know, the next day, basically. And I am sitting there looking at my coupon, my check-in information that she gave me, and it's saying 6 p.m. that night. So how is it now telling me from the computer that it's 8 a.m. tomorrow? So as I was looking at it, some woman announced all flights from Reagan National Airport going to JFK have been canceled. What the? So I went to the service counter, stood in line, got to my turn, went to the service counter, and I said, is there any flight that I can take? I need to be on my flight at JFK at 11:45. I'm sorry, 11:25 tonight. And she goes, I'm sorry, there are no more flights leaving here going to JFK today. All flights have been canceled by air traffic control. What the hell? Of course, she didn't have any information for me either as to how that happened. Okay, so I asked her, do you know how I can get to JFK from here today? And she goes, I am not sure. I don't have any information. So there's another guy who, of course, not everybody else who had come from the Washington Dulles airport was, you know, talking to different people, trying to figure out how they were going to get where they had to go. So there's this guy who was talking to different people. So I approached him and I said, do you know how I can get from here to JFK today? I have a flight at 11:25. I have to get to my sister-in-law's funeral. And he goes, well, Union Station is close by, so you can get there. If you take an Uber, it's about 15 minutes, but there's also the Metro Rail train that you can take to Union Station. So I said, okay. So I went, of course, on my phone, thank God, and I saw that there, of course, Greyhound is there. It's a bus that goes to New York, and it takes 4 hours to get there. And at this time, it was about 5:15, and I said, okay, 5:15, it's going to get to about 9:15. We're going to get there, which is good. So I called Greyhound, and I can't even go over the stupidity of the person, the representative that picked up the phone. But in the end, the next bus that I could get on was at 8 o'clock, and Greyhound takes about 4 hours, a little bit more, to get to New York. I was like, okay, that's going to be at midnight. I can't. Well, ma'am, we have other buses tomorrow. Didn't I just freaking tell you that I have to be there by 11:25 tonight? Stupidity. Ugh. Anyway, so I went on my phone again and I looked for any other transportation from Union Station going to JFK. And then there was this train, an express train. So I said, okay. And in the meantime, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so that means I can't take any airline at all. So I can't be transferred to any airline at all because all flights from the Washington area were canceled going to JFK. No flights. So as I'm trying to find this, I went to the counter and I asked the lady, I said, okay, I can't do the flight tomorrow, so I'm going to have to get a refund. And she goes, okay. And then she did my refund and gave me a paper, which I need to check if that went through anyway. So she gave me a sheet of paper showing that she had given me a refund. I said, okay, and that took a few minutes as well. So I found a train, an express train going to JFK from Union Station. They were leaving at the hour, on the hour, so 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, going to New York. Penn Station, not to JFK, going to Penn Station in New York. And so I had to figure out how far is JFK from Penn Station, and it seemed like it was about 30 to 40 minutes. I said, okay. So looking at where we were and how to get to Union Station, there was a metro rail there, and the guy's like, it's going to take about 20 minutes. It took more than that, but anyway. And I didn't want to take Uber because I didn't want to get stuck in traffic because, it was rush hour at this point. It's past 5 p.m. It's rush hour. So I didn't want to get stuck in traffic bumper to bumper because I was trying to make the 6 o'clock train, But by the time I finished booking it on, on the phone to make sure that I caught, that train, it was about 5:48. So I said, okay, it's not going to work. So I rebooked it to the 7 o'clock because I had, 12 more minutes to get to that train. It wasn't going to happen. And the next one was at 7 o'clock, so I booked it. 7 o'clock going to Penn Station Express. So we took the train, we got to Union Station. We get to Union Station, of course, it's a zoo over there, trying to figure out where the heck the trains are. And I had a confirmation code that I was supposed to go to either a teller or a machine to actually get my tickets printed. I went to a teller. The teller's like, put a credit card in. I'm like, the hell I am. I already paid for this thing with a credit card over the phone. I am not putting it in for you to charge me twice. So I asked around, found somebody told me where the teller was, so we went to the teller. At this point it was about 6:25. We got plenty of time, so there was a long line. We got there, she got my confirmation code, printed out the tickets, we're set. Okay, so about 6:35 we get in the line. It's a long line that was going to take that train to New York. I'm looking at the train, the train number and everything. It stopped at like 8 places, 8 different stops along the line. I'm like, this is express? Oh my God. Anyway, so we boarded. I mean, that was the only option we had. We boarded the train, and I just tried to be patient, and we were going a little slowly for my liking. I'm like, an express train, this train isn't going, I could jog faster than this. You know how it is when you're in a hurry and everything is just slow motion. Anyway, so eventually we got to Penn Station. Painstakingly eventually got to Penn Station. And thankfully, my husband had been talking to his cousin who lives in New York, and he was telling us, when you get there, this is the exit that you take, and you're going to see cabs over here, and then just take a cab to JFK. So we got there. Of course, that place is a zoo. And just so, disclaimer, I hate New York. I hate New York. I hate New Yorkans, the typical New Yorkans. Okay, rude as anything. If you're from New York, I apologize in advance because I despise. Anyway, so we get there. We eventually found, the exit. The signs were clear enough. We get outside, and there is a line a mile long to catch the cab. It was very organized, I must say, very, very impressive. There was somebody making the cabs come up, and then, whoever's the first in the line gets in the cab and they go, and just like that. But there was a traffic light just before the beginning of the line. So when the traffic light would go red, the cabs had to stop, they couldn't come. And people, you're just standing there waiting. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing, okay? Why can't you? These cabs are not going on the main road. They're on the side. They should pass the damn red light and just come. So of course that took a while. So we did arrive at Penn Station at like 5 minutes to 10. Okay. And we got the cab about 15 to 18 minutes later. Again, remember our connecting flight at JFK is at 11:25 that night. So it gets to our turn, and I lean into the window talking to the cab driver, and I'm trying to tell my husband, like, hold that other cab just in case this one can't take us where we want to go. Hold that other cab. But of course, the people behind us are going around because, the cabs are lining up. They have to go. Anyway, so I asked the guy, I said, how fast can you get us to JFK? He goes, well,